Hello folks, unless you're someone who is still working on unfinished goals for Season 2 of The War Within, be it Raid, Mythic Plus, or even just the Cartels of Undermine Renown, then it's probably starting to feel like the game is in a bit of a lull. That lull is set to be broken next week with the launch of patch 11.17, which will offer some updates for delves, along with a new Sussy Circlet style belt item, which just this week has seen some sizable buffs. More on that in a minute. This lull does mean that I think a lot of players are starting to look forwards to the next major patch 11.20, and if Blizzard follow the usual pattern, we'll likely get the reveal for that patch the week after next, which I am sure will give us plenty to talk about. And later on in this video, I'm going to take a look at what I would like to see from what I suspect may turn out to be the final major patch of The War Within. But before all of that, let's catch up on what's been happening in the last week. On the 11.17 PTR testing, the new Titan Disc belt has been decidedly average, offering a slight DPS loss compared to a normal equivalent belt. This very much reminded me of Sussy Circlet, which got some sizable buffs just before it went live. It was therefore no surprise to see Blizzard announce buffs for the new belt just this week. The belt will now be starting at item level 691 and can be upgraded in steps all the way to 701, with the majority of the belt's bonus effects also being heavily buffed. The developers explained that their goal is to make sure that the belt is desirable but will be replaced by Season 3 endgame gear. These changes will, I think, have the desired effect, with the belt now looking like most specialisations are going to want to get it, if not to help with the remaining Season 2 goals, which it for sure will, then to kickstart their Season 3 progression. The final week before a new patch usually sees Blizzard release a few preview teasers, and this time around it has included a brand new audio short story. Narrated by Paris Blue, the voice actor for Farin Lothar, Faith in Flame sees Farin herself tell a story from her childhood before breaking the news to her comrades in the Arathi that she plans to leave Hallerfall and visit the outside world, and helps to set up the patch 11.17 story. This new story is available in both YouTube in audio form and in written form, and I will link to both down below. If you have been tanking in higher level content and are lucky enough to have a really good group, you may have been noticing yourself losing threat unexpectedly of late. I haven't had major issues in that front myself, but there have still been a few oops moments. As it turns out, you're likely not alone, as on Wednesday, Blizzard released a hotfix that increases tank threat by 15%, taking the tank threat multiplier up to 950%. Yes, that's right, 950. DPS output does tend to scale at a faster rate than does tank DPS over the course of an expansion, so it's not very surprising to see threat being buffed like this, but I do wonder if having to take it all the way to 950%, keeping in mind that it used to be 400%, does make me wonder if perhaps tank DPS could do with some love. Obviously, tanks should not be competing with DPS for damage output, but at the same time, current tank damage, especially in single target bosses, does kinda feel like a bit lackluster. If you've been collecting the puzzling Cartel chips, the new version of the dinar-like currency, but managed to miss a week, one of the annoying things about the system has been the lack of any way to catch up, especially as this could happen if you just forgot to hand the quest in. Thankfully, this omission has now been resolved with the last week's reset. If you're behind, you can now pick up the missing quest in the same week until you get caught up. It does appear that you cannot have two of the quests at the same time, which does make it a bit awkward if you're in Raid, but with the first two gear items now obtainable through the system, this is nevertheless very welcome. This week also saw us reach Renown level 16 with the Galagio Loyalty Club, which takes the scaling raid buff all the way up to 15%, with just one final step to 18% coming in 3 weeks' time, at least for the most of us. Unfortunately, it appears that for a minority of players, the Renown track has become stuck at various points, meaning that they no longer get any reputation progress from raid bosses. This reset, Blizzard did announce a fix for that issue, but unfortunately, that fix doesn't appear to have fully resolved the problem, with still quite a few players reporting only getting a few hundred reputation from the raid. Thankfully, I have not been affected with this, but Blizzard have now at least acknowledged that the issue is still ongoing and they are investigating further, so hopefully folks will get a full resolution in the near future. When Horrific Visions first launched, one thing that was noticeable by its absence compared to the PTR was Gift of the Titans. This is a powerful buff that was originally on the BFA 8.3 Legendary Cloak, which awards a chance that defeating any enemy will grant a 60% haste buff, a movement speed increase, and immunity from sanity loss for 20 seconds, essentially making it your own personal version of heroism in Visions. On the PTR, this was the final talent tree entry and was automatically awarded when you collected all of the other talents, but on live until now this had been completely missing, raising the question if it was just time gated or if it had been removed. As it turns out, it was indeed just time gated, and assuming you have unlocked the full Horrific Visions tree, you will now have it, which, if you're still working on those 5 or even 8 mass runs for the mount, might just be enough to push you over the edge. This week the Orgrimmar Vision is active, which when it comes to doing high mask runs is for sure the easier of the two, so if you haven't already, it's probably a great time to try and tick it off your bucket list. Now, regular viewers will know that I've been speculating that the War Within would last just 18 months and have only 3 seasons. And while Blizzard remains silent on this subject, all of the indications and little hints do continue to point towards this being the case, which of course means that patch 11.2.0 could well be the last major patch release and raid and Mythic Plus season. And so I thought that this could be a good time to take a look at some of the things I would like to see from this major patch. Personally, I've actually enjoyed Undermine a lot, surprisingly so given its lack of flying and over-reliance in rares. Part of its success has been that it has a very different vibe to what we've been used to for a mid-expansion patch. But at the same time, in 6 to 8 weeks time when it's all over, it's probably fair to say that I'll be done with it. This does mean that I am hoping that the WoW team will focus on delivering something that feels a bit different gameplay wise. In my opinion, the standard mid or late expansion zone format of rares and weekly wrapper quests is getting a little bit stale. After all, it's been nearly a decade since that format was first introduced in the Timeless Isle, and the final season of an expansion is arguably the best time to experiment and try new things out. Whatever that is, I would like to see them focus a lot less on those weekly quests. One of the strengths of Legion and BFA was the way that no matter how often you logged in, there was always something new to do, a feeling that I don't really get from the War Within, where some days you get a maximum of 3 new world quests popping up. I'm also looking for the next zone to fully embrace skyriding. We've had 2 zones in a row with flying restrictions, and I think that a third would be too much, even if it does turn out to be Koresh, the broken world of the Ethereals. Back in Legion, Argus was pretty decent for the campaign storyline, but as a max level zone to visit, the zone layout and lack of flying did make it a place that I kind of avoided visiting all that much. And looking beyond the open world, both raids so far have only had 8 bosses, which is a fair bit smaller than usual. Prior to the War Within, the last time we got an 8 boss raid was Uldir in BFA, another season that at the time people said felt like it had lasted for too long. And I do think that I would like to see the team deliver a larger 10 to 12 boss raid, ideally with a drop in difficulty for the Mythic raid to balance that bigger size out a little bit. For Mythic Plus, we do know that there will be a new standard size dungeon, along with some of the other War Within dungeons returning. Personally, I am hoping for just 3 of those returning, so that we do still get 4 older dungeons in the pool. And as for what those older dungeons should be, I would love to see one from Mists of Pandaria. Mist had some awesome dungeons, and to date, since Blizzard started bringing back those older dungeons, we've only ever seen one Mist dungeon, the Jade Temple. Rewards wise, while I do think that the dinar system does need some major improvements, I do think that the rest of the turbo boost, especially the increase in item levels coinciding with the removal of the crest cap, has been a big success, and I would like to see that continue. I also think that while the raid Renown track has also been successful, it could benefit from a bit of iteration, ideally to make sure that more of the Renown steps have some more exciting rewards. But by far the most important thing that I would like to see is a smooth release. World of Warcraft is old and very large and complex, so some bugs are inevitable. but the level of game-breaking issues, especially in the main headline patch content, has been far too high of late, and it is starting to harm player trust, something that Blizzard do need to start working on to recover. And finally, Blizzard, let's not quietly forget about heirlooms. The upgrade to level 80 is now overdue, and while heirlooms are less important than they used to be, obtaining them required a major investment, and they do still have their uses for experienced players. But what about all of you? What would you want from patch 11.20 and the new season? Do let me know in the comments down below. If you found this update helpful, entertaining, or even just plain annoying, then do let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos along with my other content, then also hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. If you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me in social media. My links are in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.